Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
Welcome. I'm so glad you found the place. This is wonderful. It's kind of tucked back in here. And if this is your first time to the Universal Church of the Master headquarters, this is where Corky hangs out. This is where quite often Janet hangs out. Corey, wonderful Reverend Dr. Eileen, where I don't know where she is this week. Yeah, I didn't hear from her. But this is where all of the business is done, is right here. And this opens up to a huge room, and then there's it expands when it needs to, okay? But right now it's big enough for us to be here and have wonderful service. So thank you so much for coming. And I just noticed that our speaker for next week walked in, and Tim, it's so glad to see you. Yes. I'm looking forward to you talking on Father's Day. Yeah. That is wonderful. Yeah. And you can tell he blushes faster than anybody I've ever known.
You can tell even with
I can see that. But, it's nice having you here. One of the things that I want to talk about before we get going is that think about, if you aren't a minister, think about what it would take for you to become a minister. Just this last couple of days, Corky and I went up and ordained a woman called Chen Li, and she lives in Santa Rosa, and she wanted her husband to be president. He's incapacitated, so we decided, the whole thing of, hey, if the mountain doesn't come to Muhammad, we went up to Santa Rosa, had a marvelous time. And I never thought of a minister will ordain, and travel. But it worked in a beautiful, beautiful way. And a member of her church was able to be there and put her stole on, which was such a delight. I so enjoyed meeting her. So congratulations again, Reverend Chen Li. We're so glad to have you here. Yes, it's wonderful. The other thing that's happening is we're always looking for speakers. You might not think you have a talk, but believe me, every one of you has a talk within you, something you want to say. And I'll give an example of how easy it is. We were driving in this morning, and I looked up at the clouds, and there were blue and pink and gray, and it's the trans flag. And I saw it up there, the trans colors. I wonder if the clouds know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they care.
Yeah.
And it dawned on me, because clouds are happy being who they are. The only people who judge are the people on the planet. But those clouds were great. And Corky says, you have a sermon.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do.
There it is.
That's how easy it is to get a talk.
Yeah.
Look at how the world is reacting. And when you see the world being loving, you got your sermon.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Good.
So I want to thank you very much for joining us. And I think she's getting her guitar. There we go.
There we go.
Shall I sit here?
You may sit there. And let go to put your feet flat on the floor. Take a nice deep breath. Weekends are busy. And anytime you can make it to church, we are so excited to have you here. And as you take another nice deep breath and calm yourself, feel the energy of the Creator. I talked about seeing love in the clouds. You can find love anywhere you are. So right now we're going to find love in the here and the now. So follow the sound of my voice as I take you on a journey to a place I call Love Lake. When you get to Love Lake, and walk through the forest. When you walk into a forest, you're immediately hit by the smell of the pine, the smell of the oak, the smell of the trees. And you leave from the sunshine and walk into the forest. And it's cool and comforting. And feel that. Feel the coolness. Feel the energy of the animals and the birds. And each step you take is on the floor of the forest. And it feels soft underneath your feet. And as you're walking along, you can smell water. And as you come out of the forest, you see a beautiful waterfall. And the waterfall is falling into the lake. And as you get closer to the lake, you notice that the waterfall looks like a rainbow. The sun is shining on all the different aspects of water. And you see the red and the orange and the yellow and the green and the blue and the indigo. And as it flows into the lake absorbs all the colors. And that's like love. All the colors of all the peoples of the world, all the people who've gone before us, and all the people who are going to be here after us. Their energy and their love is flowing into Lake Love. And Love Lake is a place that you can go. Anytime you feel frustrated, harried, upset, just put yourself into a light trance and go to this wonderful lake of love. And as you put your foot into the lake and you feel the cool energy of beings, of creator, of all of the saints, all of the energies of all the pure-minded, pure-thought people who have gone beyond. And with that energy, you start to heal. The love energy from the lake heals you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Because you can feel it in your feet. And you can bring that energy up through all your chakras until you can bring love through your entire body and let it shine out through your crown chakra. Each one of you is a child of the divine. And when you feel distressed or depressed, put yourself in a slight trance and go to Love Lake. Feel the love that is there for you and there for everybody. Now let's listen to our wonderful Reverend Dr. Janet Jones.
Oh, the healing waters flow. Open up your heart, and you know within every cell of your body, the healing waters flow. It's a waterfall reaching deep inside, healing the broken wings. It's a waterfall reaching deep inside, carrying you to your rainbow. Let the healing flow. Let the healing flow. Let it flow. Let your dreams grow. Let them grow as you plant the seed and mystery, reaching out for your destiny. You are here today on this earth to be all you can do. Let the healing flow. Let the sea grow. It grows, and every step you take is filled with the magic and the mystery. Every moment you make brings us home to this destiny. Flow, flow, flow. Let the river flow. Let the healing grow. Flow, flow, flow. Let your heart open and grow. Let the healing waters flow.
Let's take a nice deep breath and come back to the room. Thank you, Janet. I don't know how she does it. She never has any idea what I'm going to talk about. And yet she puts us into a meditative place with such beauty and such joy. I so appreciate you, Janet. Thank you so very much. Well, this morning, this is such a treat because the Reverend John Simmons is somebody who was ordained in 1967. Now, that's been a little while ago.
Bravo.
And I think he probably started studying about the same time you did, Corky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Your sponsor was
Well, it was John Lawrence,
John Lawrence. Yeah.
Father John.
Father John. And so, yeah, old timers here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or new timers.
New timers, whatever you want to call yourself. But both of them came to this with the same feeling of knowing things that other people might not know and feeling things that other people might not feel. And wanting to find a place where they were accepted for who they were. And in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, that was difficult to find quite often. And then to find a church that accepted you. And you didn't have to say, I am this. You could say, I am me. And the church accepted you for who you are. And we are so glad to have you people here today who are what they call free thinkers, or into new thought, but also have a base that you come from. And I think that's real important too. So would you please help me recognize and really say welcome to Dr. Johnson. Thank you, Doctor.
That's good. I don't mind that. I'm a nurse already. So.
Hey, that's great. I'm gonna get out of here. Wait just a minute. And so
You guys gonna
anyway,
switch chairs?
no, I'm gonna sit and he's gonna stand.
Yes.
Does that sound great?
I can't stand to sit when I talk.
And we have cupcakes in the back.
Well,
So
in that
when
case,
you
let's
get-
forget the talk and just eat.
So when you get ready to go, you can take a cupcake, okay? Yeah. Thank you so much,
I have to
Janet.
go to the Union Hall. I'm so sorry, but I will listen to your beautiful talk.
Thank you. I'm
Are
sorry. I'm sorry for
you still
you.
working with VTA? Is
Yes.
that, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks for your
Thank you,
help.
Janet, so much.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to be here. at
You
least-
energized everything, and it's
Oh.
already great. But you took it over the top.
And it's going to be recorded so you can watch it later.
Yes.
Reverend Dottie, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank each of you for being here. This is a very powerful group. When I walked in, I felt the energy. I said, wow, this is good. It's very clean and very fresh. I like it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Reverend John Simmons, and I ask God to love and be a part and be all of what we are doing today because you are God. And we know that. Mother, Father, God, we thank you for this day, for this opportunity, and for this time together. Amen. I'm going to be
Excuse me,
probably
John, would you take the mic and put it on the podium there?
under my arm.
Not just gonna hear his heartbeat, we're gonna hear his words too.
Did it. Yeah, my voice is kind of soft, so I'll try to speak loudly and carry a big stick. I'll read some of this and then I'll just talk. So if you get bored while I'm reading, raise your hand and I'll just stop and start talking.
Okay. I bet you won't. I bet you'll just wave back.
I might do that. Oh gosh.
Calm down.
So yes, I'm Reverend John M. Simmons, and I was ordained in 1967 after studying with Pearl Wilkinson at her church on 13th Street in San Jose, and I studied with her for 10 years before I got ordained. I'm a slow learner, but I finally get it. You know, it takes a little while. And I found this church to be absolutely perfect because it's so understanding and accepting and open to the universal truth, which is found in so many places. And sometimes it's ignored in some of those places, but I think we're pretty good at picking that up and adding it to our repertoire. Sometimes I do healing and sometimes I do prayer, and sometimes, you know, we all do what we do. And I find God's energy to be very powerful and very sweet. I've had a couple of times where I've had major surgeries, and each time the doctor has said to me, you'll probably die during surgery. It's very delicate, so there's no chance probably, but we're going to do it anyway and see how you do. And I always say to them, you know, I'm a weed in God's garden. You can't kill weeds. And they kind of look at me like I'm a little bit crazy. And then when I wake up after the surgery, the first thing the surgeon usually says to me is, John, you are a weed. I tried. It didn't work. So I'm also a registered nurse, and I'm board certified in psychiatry and public health. And I've worked a lot, like 50 years, with developmentally disabled, mentally disabled, and other people who have medical and psychiatric health needs. We came to California from New York when I was 14 and a half, and I'd been to many kinds of churches because my parents liked to try a new experience every so often. So I've been in synagogues, I've been in minarets, I've been in a lot of different places for a lot of different religions, and including Lilydale, where it's sort of the center of the beginning of this religion, our beliefs, and met many people who were very psychic and very good at connecting almost instantaneously with the other side, which I find to be a little bit of a challenge. But we were open to that. My parents went to whatever, and so I had a lot of experience. Well, when we came to Pearl's church, Pearl Wilkinson, I was 14 and a half, and I talked with her. And as I talked to her, I knew her. I knew she was somebody I'd been around before. It's like the first time I met her, but it's like the 9,000th time I met her, you know, that kind of feeling. And so I told her that. I said, you know, I don't know. I was young. I don't know how to tell you this, but you are, she was like 40, 50 years older than I was. You're somebody that I sort of grew up with, or I know. She said, oh, yeah. She said, you're right. She said, I'll tell you all about it sometime. Well, she did. It turned out we had at least 2 lifetimes together, both as doctors on battlefields, and we all got killed. Kind of ruined the day for us. But we got back to reality. So I decided I needed to get to know her a little bit better. So as you know, my experience in previous lifetimes made sense to her. It made sense to my family too. I picked the right family this time, so they actually understood me when I talked to them. I found her church to have many family values, many very wonderful values, and I decided that was definitely the church for us, and my parents agreed with that. The psychic readings that Pearl did were pretty hard to believe because she was so right on. And it turns out she had a couple of workers on the other side who worked a lot with her. So that turned out kind of like Reverend some of the other ministers I've met who have like relatives who pass on who choose to come back and help with that. She was very good at that and could answer questions that were like unbelievably complicated, no problem at all. And so after watching her a few times, I went and asked for clarification on that. How could she do that? And she explained that to me, and that all made sense. You know, I could see how that would work. Another thing I thought was kind of interesting about her, and I'll talk more about other things, but she had a potluck dinner at the church, and it was her house, and she had a big room about twice the size of this one, that she could have people come and have a potluck. She always put out the correct number of chairs, but you never knew how many
That's
were coming. Cuckoo! I know you can't do that consistently. You might get it once in a while, right? But she every time. Well, one night it was raining and storming, and we had our church service, and we got ready to sit down. There were 2 chairs, and some of us who were unbelievers were looking at each other, going, "Here we go, 2 extra chairs. Not that many people here, and we're going to sit down and eat. How's this going to work?" Just before we sit down, a knock at the door. 2 ladies, soaking wet, come in and say, "Is this the UCM?" "Yes, it is. We've been driving around looking for it. Can we come in?" "Oh, yeah, come on and have a seat and eat."
Yay!
So it's 100%. Those kinds of things have to prove something to you, even if you're an unbeliever, which I was a believer, but this just reinforced everything. So how she could do that, I don't know. I don't do that. No, Pearl was able to understand at a greater depth. I mean, you do, and you do, and you do, and you do, but the average person doesn't. And she could understand at a greater depth because somehow she would go quiet for a moment and actually feel inside you. She would know who you were. Well, I learned some of those traits, and they came in very handy working with psychotic patients, because most of my life I worked with the mentally disabled. And it's interesting how I can sit there and talk to them, and suddenly I'm hearing what they're hearing, and I know where to go. And people can't figure out how I do that. I can't figure out how I do that. Yeah, but it comes in handy when you're working with people who are having a difficult time with their brain and their spirit, and trying to connect the two and make life work. So that's really come in handy for me to, be able to work with people who are having a difficult time. Reverend Ferguson, Bob Ferguson, became a very, very good friend of mine. He was one of the, he ran the church for a little
There's a
while.
picture
didn't
of him right up there.
he? Yeah. Okay. Bob's up. Yeah. There's Bob right there.
The
He-
third one from the left.
Yes, that's it. Third. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Right. I asked him about how he did his work, because he was always so perfect. And he had a little bit of a sharp edge. Sometimes if somebody wanted to come and talk to him about something and he didn't like them, he'd say, "No, you can leave."
Oh, my.
Oh my, yeah, right.
Oh, my.
It's a little,
I didn't know we could do that.
I didn't either, but he could. Oh yeah, he did that with Sarah.
I've never wanted to, but it sounds interesting.
Aren't we supposed to just say, "Oh, tell me your problem and I'll listen, and bless you and listen"? No, he'd say, "Bless you," and I'll get out. So he had a little bit of a sharp edge there. And I asked him about who he worked with. His brother had passed away a few years, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And his brother, who was, I believe, younger. Anyway, his brother came back to him and said, "I'll be willing to be the gopher if you need to." So he could ask his brother to go look things up and find things and get answers, which is pretty hard to do on the other side, because it's a complicated place. And sometimes it takes somebody who can really, do a little research. His brother got really kind of tired of that after a while. So Bob said, either I'm going to have to die or stop this, because I'm driving my poor brother crazy. But his brother did stick with him till the very end. So yeah, isn't that impressive? I don't have that brother on the other side, so I kind of have to flop around a little bit sometimes. Also, Pearl worked with a healing energy that I thought was really beautiful. We would meet Wednesday nights and sit in a very large room, well, about this size room, and we'd have a circle, and all lights were out, and we would allow the teachers to come in, and they would allow us to ask questions. And then they would bring in people who were physically disabled, because at that time, about 30 years ago or so, they were clearing the earth of a lot of spirits who had become earthbound. There was a big push to get them cleared and move them on. And some of them were earthbound because they still felt like their body was not perfect. For instance, they'd bring somebody in who had lost a leg or an arm, and they thought they still had lost that leg and arm. They couldn't believe you still have your legs and arms in spirit. You can lose an arm here, but you don't lose the spirit arm, right? But they didn't understand that. So they'd have to come in, and sometimes they would touch us. We sat in this dark room, and sometimes the room would totally light up. without the lights being on. You could see everybody sitting there, just like your eyes would see. Other times the energy would be very strong, but it wouldn't be that visual. But they would bring people in and they would just sometimes touch us very lightly or touch our leg or something. And they would then come to understand that they were not physical, but they still were whole and they were able to go on. So we did that for, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years, I think, until they more or less cleared out a lot of the people that needed to have that experience. It was kind of nice to be of service in a kind of strange and unusual, medical but non-medical way. It was quite nice. And many of those souls apparently moved on. Sometimes when a teacher came in, as I said, the room would light up, and they would often ask us if we had any questions. If we had a question, they would answer it. Pearl bought a tape recorder so that she could copy these. It did nothing but hiss. We heard their voices perfectly, but the tape recorder didn't pick up anything at all.
Just had to be there.
How does that work? Yeah. And I would fall asleep.
Oh.
So one day I asked one of the teachers, I said, is it a problem, that I'm falling asleep? The teacher said, oh no, you're much easier to work with when you're sleeping.
Yeah. No resistance.
Oh, you've just given her.
I know. I'm giving you permission to fall asleep during my teaching.
Everybody hears it.
I know. It's a great one to pull out of the hat when somebody's giving you trouble about falling asleep. So I think the more evolved these teachers were, the brighter they were when they came in. And I asked them, why is it that you're so bright? You glow so strongly, and somehow, like my past is kind of dark, and then beyond you is kind of dark. Why is it dark beyond you if you're so bright? And they would laugh and say, well, they laughed and said, your ability to perceive only goes so far, and you are able to perceive me as a light, but those above me who are even brighter than I am, you don't perceive them, so it looks dark to you. Honk. Of course, once it's explained, it makes a lot of sense. So I think sometimes we're afraid of darkness, but sometimes darkness is a much brighter energy than what we're, aware of. So I've gotten more accepting. Pearl had a lot of sayings and comments, and I'll just share one of her writings, which is very deep and meaningful, and yet it seems so simple. God is energy. Jesus is mind. When you were born, God breathed into your nostrils, breathing life. And you became a living soul. Jesus said, lo, I am with you always. You breathe through your nostrils, and a filter clears your mind, and Jesus speaks. So breathe deeply, in through the nose and out through the mouth. The breath of life. And as you talk with Jesus, your life changes. Do not breathe in through your mouth and thus breathe the poisons in the air that rob you of life, wrecking your body and mind. God calls, Jesus speaks, and a new day dawns. Simple, huh? Not so simple, huh? So that's the way she would teach, and that's the way I like to teach too, is trying to keep it as simple as possible, but keep it meaningful, Yeah. So I don't have anything special more that I was going to say, although I could talk all day. I'm pretty good.
I think you could just I think you should talk some more.
Okay.
Because of your experience.
I will talk more,
Yeah.
and I'll ask if anyone has any questions. Any questions or comments?
Not yet.
Huh?
Oh, that's wonderful. No, keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions?
John,
Yes.
with your ability to kind of perceive how things are unfolding,
Yes.
do you have a sense of the unfoldment of our planet, our country, our situation?
Yes. Well, I do have a sense of that, and the sense is always we're getting more and more into the light. That's not always a comfortable thing, even for those of us who work in the light. When the energy starts to get more, I don't know there are no good words for that, but what becomes more intense or more palatable, more a part of our life, we sometimes resist it, thinking that it's going to be a problem or hurt us or not be part of what we should do. But if we go with it, we find out it's exactly what we should be doing. So I get resistant sometimes also, and the teachers say to me, slow down. You're doing fine. We're doing fine. God knows what God is doing. You don't probably know, and I probably don't know, but God knows. So relax, go with it, and always go with the light. If in doubt, when I get too nervous and I'm not sure where I am, I've been on psychiatric units where people are very violent, right? I'll stop, surround myself with light, take some breaths in and out. And if I can get the person that's angry or upset with me to do that too, I try. And then once I'm finished, I know I'm fine. I'm ready. Part of my job for a number of years for the county was to go out instead of the police, go out to where somebody was violent or had a gun or a knife, or, so weird places like that. Hotels, the Vendome downtown, not there anymore, but it was like $2 a night. They would ask me to go down there and work with somebody, and I'd tap on their door and they'd come with a gun and I'd say, put that in the drawer, because if the police see it, they're going to take it away from you. I need to come and talk with you. And they would open the door and we'd talk. And I would work with surrounding them with light, which sometimes they resisted and it made them uncomfortable. And I told them, I'm uncomfortable too. I'm feeling uncomfortable too here. But I think we can get through this. And before long, they would actually end up calming down, becoming peaceful, and saying, what do I need to do next? And I could get them into a program or get them active. So it works. It's very powerful. Yes.
So are you saying that the violence that's going on right now is resistance to the light?
In many cases it is, yes. And in many cases it's old karma, old experiences that they're finalizing, getting it out and getting it done. So if you have a pimple that's infected, sometimes you have to open it up and squeeze it, and it hurts. But you're squeezing that stuff out so that it can start to heal underneath. And that's a lot of what's going on in our society. It needs to heal underneath. And some of this has to come out and bubble out. And I don't like it either, but it is what we have to have in order to get healed, in order to get well. Does that make any sense?
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yes.
So Sky is on Skype, asking the question, can you please ask John, what was it exactly that drew him to get on the metaphysical path at age 14?
What was it exactly? Well, my father was a very spiritual man. He was a farmer. He saw God in everything. He saw God in an apple. He saw God in people. He saw God everywhere. But he was not a religious man. He didn't go traipsing off to church or someplace. My mother was an astrologer. She's well known. She has her own website. She's passed away, but
That's hard to do, is to have your own website after you're gone.
I know.
Yeah.
Somebody created it for her, and I don't know why. She probably came back and said, do this or else.
I like your mother.
I do too. They were probably doing a chart, and she said, do a website. Both of them are brilliant mathematicians, but she could do logarithms in her head. So in her head, she could figure out movements of planets, and in about 20 minutes, she could do what takes me 3 days, a chart for somebody, and give them an answer. And she would often say to them, write your question and seal it in an envelope, and let's see how I do with answering it. And then when they'd open it, it'd be a perfect answer for the question, that kind of thing. She said, I'm not psychic. She did have some skills, of course, but she didn't use those skills for the work she did. She did math. She did it the old-fashioned way, So coming into that family as a child, I'm told some of my earliest comments to my parents were about past lives, which they accepted. My father accepted it because he believes God's in everything. He didn't understand it. He said to me, you can talk about this in the family, but don't talk to people outside the family. I found out why later. And my mother, of course, did some charts to see if what I was saying was true, and she can go back in time with her charts. And she said, yeah, you did. She accepted it. So that acceptance helped to make it easier for me to accept a lot of teachings that Pearl and other spiritual people were teaching. So I was open to it. And so back there in upstate New York, where I grew up, they had psychics come to Lilydale. And some of those psychics came from Europe. And there was one guy I'll never forget. I was probably 7 years old. And we were sitting at this little talk, and he gave a little speech like I'm doing on, how it works and all that. And then he said, and now I'd like to do a little physical proof. So he takes a rose. It's one of the roses here. And he says, I'd like you all to come over and stand so you can see both sides of the wall. There were about eight or 10 or 15 or maybe at the most. And he said, I want you to watch this. And he passed the flower through the wall.
Whoa,
That's not possible.
right.
And he held it. And I said, I saw you do that. I want to come and stand beside you when you do it. He said, I don't do it twice. I said, oh, yes, you do. I need to see it again. He said, I don't normally do that. I said, I know. I'd like you to do it again. Same flower through the wall. Doesn't have to go through the same hole because there wasn't a hole there. I said, however you can do it. My father said, show him. So I stood beside him and he pushed it through. And we went on the other side of the wall and pulled it through. It was still a flower. And there was no hole in the wall. So those kinds of experiences,
Well, they're bound to do something to you.
it kind of sets you up, doesn't it? Sets you up for the whole program, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So naturally, we went to some more of these. I never saw anything quite that spectacular, but we went to some more of these. And then when we came to San Jose and found Pearl and realized she understood, we just had to go there. That was the automatic decision maker. Does that make sense? Did I answer the question?
Okay, so Sky, oh, thanks for the detailed answer.
Yes, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Oh, here, who can see, okay, no, that's a message from me.
Maybe I need a handkerchief.
Oh,
There's
a
Kleenex right there.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and John, when you come back.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yeah.
I promise not to stay away.
But you don't realize the cord was wrapped around your ankle, so I was a little bit worried there.
Yeah, I know.
I would have gotten up, but
I try not to make a mess, but you know,
Be careful of that.
I'm kind of klutzy.
That's why I wanted you to get your foot on the cord.
You know me.
But, you know, in response to what John was asking, I think we as light workers are feeling very frustrated because
Yes.
it seems like we put out light, we put out love, we put out trust, we put out care.
But it's given to us freely.
Right, right.
So keep
Exactly.
going.
And we
Okay.
just keep putting it out and putting it out. And every once in a while, it feels like it hits a wall. And what we need to make sure is that wall is somehow going to start getting less dense.
Yes, that's true. It will. It will finally be stabilized and become a light itself, become an energy itself. If you've looked at the solar system and you looked at the universe, you see we're very far from most of the light. We're here working in the dark. That's what we're supposed to be doing. That's why we came here. We chose to come here.
Yes.
It's not as much fun as we thought it would be.
Sometimes it's hard.
What's that?
Amen.
Amen. That's right.
John, when we were in class together, you shared some of your psychic experiences that you had that were pretty interesting. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing, I heard you talk about the bros.
Yes.
I was wondering if you'd be willing to share any other experiences that you've had that are
Well, I think they're just kind of the basic experiences that we probably all do have, I think. I don't know. When Pearl would have me teach at church, have me teach of all people, right? here are these masters sitting out there, teach them something. Oh boy. But
How old was Jesus when he went to the temple and taught the elders? 12?
yeah, how old? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, it's a little different in person, but but I know what you mean.
No, but you had that God energy within
That's
you. We
right.
all did.
That's
We all
right.
can be
Yeah.
teachers.
We all are Christ when we're lit, when we're full, when we're
Yes.
full, bubbling. Sometimes when I would teach, she would say, this next Sunday, I want you to do a talk. And I'd say, what about? She said, whatever you want. Just get up and do a talk, half hour, whatever you want to do. Well, you know, I'm like 16 years old or something, or 18 years old. You know, a little reading now. Look at the Bible. Then I'd stand up and I'd start to talk. And then this energy would come along and say, I'd like to come in. And I'd say, okay, what do you want me to do? And they'd say, just move over inside my body. My body didn't move over. I just moved over. And they would come in and start talking. And when they left, people go, that was fantastic, John. You're so smart. No, I'm not. But sometimes I have friends who are.
Somebody.
If somebody is, yeah, whoever dropped by. Yeah, so sometimes people just drop by and want to come in. I usually don't let them come in. I keep my light, keep my energy, because I don't want them stepping in. And working on psych, I was careful because sometimes that would happen too. But sometimes I get surprised and somebody does want to get in and they're there. And I say, okay, what do you need? What's the story? I had one lady come in who had been brutally beaten and raped and killed. And her sister was sitting to the right at this party that they were having, this girl who died's sister. And she comes in front of me and says, I would like to come into your body. I said, oh, I don't think so. No, come on in. Not inside the body, just here. The chair. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Oh, if you want to dance, it's okay. All right. So she said, no, I really, from where I am, I can't see my sister clearly. I can see her form, but I can't see her. And I haven't seen her since I was killed. And I want to see her. I want to look through your eyes. What are you going to say?
And you say you can visit, but don't.
That's what I said. Drop in and drop out, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I said, well, all right. So I kind of moved back and she came in through the front this time, not through the side, but in through the front. And she got just far enough back that she could see. And my vision got blurry. Like I, had smoke in my eyes or something. And she stayed there for just a few moments. And I said, how is it? She said, okay, thank you. And she stepped back out. Now, that's not something I normally do, but I felt safe doing it. So I did it, So sometimes we're called to do odd and unusual things. And we just say, well, no or yes. Usually I say no. I don't want to share my body with anybody because I'm not sure who they are. Did that make any sense what I just said? You had more question or comment? Okay.
John, you're good.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I love it.
John, you hit a point that people don't realize, that we have free will.
Yes.
And that is so important when you're intuitive.
Yes.
Not everybody in the world can come into you, and you have to make sure though that you have a way to protect yourself. And that's one of the most common question I have. Well, what do I do when everybody in the world wants to come through me?
Surround yourself with light.
Just surround yourself
Yep.
with light.
Yep.
And I was doing a reading yesterday, and I love this one because it's, I channel a spirit guide
Yes.
named Ma, and Ma said, I want you to put down a gold mesh
Good.
of love and light to protect you.
Yep.
But enough so you can see through, and enough that they think it looks
That's
beautiful.
perfect. That's perfect.
In other words, the beauty was going to stop them from coming through.
Yeah. Right.
Instead of just having a wall,
Right,
just this
right.
gold mesh. And I went, wow, I like that.
Yes. Well, I like that because I don't have a wall. I have an energy. I have a light
Right,
energy, and they can see through it, but they can't come through it
Right.
because it's surrounding me and it's going this way and it's energizing. And if I invite them through, they can get through.
Right.
But it takes a little effort. I have to stop and kind of slow it down and let them through.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, working in psych, I had to do that. Every day before I went to work, I energized, and so I never had
That's one of those skills that you have to learn,
Yes.
is to protect yourself.
Yes.
And when I do classes, I say the first thing you do when you get up in the morning, you say white light and see the light around you. And if something becomes very dense during the day, redo, just like reapply, like your makeup for
That's
you
right.
women.
That's right.
So maybe men too. I don't want to be sexist here, but think about, you just say to yourself, white light, just that fast.
Re-energize.
Re-energize. Yeah.
And before you go to bed at night, it's not a bad idea either.
Right.
It's not a bad idea before you go to sleep at night to encircle yourself. I like to encircle myself in at least 3 light energies as I go to sleep. So during the night, I'm probably not going to have to deal with crazy energies. I've had a few times in my life, I had an uncle who had some psychic ability who got angry at my mother. And none of us could sleep day after day. And so we finally talked to Pearl, I think it was, and said, what's going on here? We're just having restless nights, all of us. She said, oh, your uncle's sending energy, barbs. He's saying barbs to your father and mother and to you, much like my parents. So you need to surround yourselves with light before you go to bed. My golly, the first night we surrounded ourselves with this energy of light, we slept fine.
Voila.
Yeah, right. Ta-dam. So he could send all he wanted.
Well, John, I do have one more question.
Please, I love questions, so the more the merrier.
Well, currently there's been a lot of studies about unidentified flying objects.
Yes,
And they're starting to come out and say maybe they're real.
yes,
And I wondered if you had any thoughts on that.
I've been on them. Yes, of course. Reverend Reverend Shirley and Bob. Their last name Short. Shirley and Bob
Oh,
Short.
yeah.
Right.
Remember them?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, one day I was talking to
They have
them.
a church, or they have a church.
They had a
Yeah,
church?
Yeah, they had a church.
So one day I was talking to them about, how old was I? I must have been about 17, maybe 16 or 17. I was at Girls Church and they were there.
Mhm.
And maybe I was younger even. And I was talking to them about how big the universe is and how there must be other life forms and all that. And they were silent for a while. And then Bob finally said, yeah, there are. They come over to the house every Wednesday night. Was it every Wednesday night? Every other Wednesday night, I guess it was. They come over to the house and we talk with them and they tell us what to do. They tell us things. I said,
All right,
okay, I want you all to keep quiet in there, 'cause we're trying to- Why don't you beam back up and we'll talk to you later. They're kind of pushy.
Yep, they are.
So, yeah, it's not locked.
Oh,
It's just-
yeah, we didn't like them.
No, it's not locked. It's just, they can open it again. if they
Well,
want.
we had a minister, and I believe he just passed, Red Duke, and he lived in Florida, and that's what he did.
Yeah.
He took people on searches
Journeys.
and journeys with UFOs. And amazing man. And,
Yes.
so our church is known for having people who work with UFOs.
Well, this all happened before Star Trek.
Right?
And Gene Roddenberry and Bob Short were good friends.
Oh,
And Gene would come to his house and say, what can I learn?
yeah.
And he would tell him, and then they'd put it in the show. It'd be in Star Trek. Bob, in fact, sometimes at the end of Star Trek, you'll see Bob Short getting a little name in there.
Oh, wow.
Oh, how
He doesn't
cool
do it
is
every
that?
time, but he does sometimes,
Yeah.
Well, that's Bob. That's the guy that I knew. So I went over to his house and I said to him, I don't believe in any of this stuff. As far as I'm concerned, it's all cuckoo, right?
Still, you don't believe? I mean,
And at that time,
right.
he said, all right. He said, well, you're early, because he had these meetings, you're invited, and where he talked to him. He said, well, you're early. So if you want, let's go step out in the back. And he lived in San Jose, but he could see out over the hills and where Reed Hillview Airport is. Mhm. So he could see the airport. And so he said, let's look out over the hills and I'll ask them to come in because they're here. They're in the atmosphere. Now I'll ask them to come in and prove to you that they're really here. I said, good. Woo, woo, woo. Good. I'm hard to prove to. So we go stand on his back porch and we're looking out over Reed Hillview and there's a little red airplane flying along there and it's just getting dusk. So they're just kind of all coming into land. All of a sudden, a light comes over here and drops down and stops. Airplanes don't do that.
Right.
They don't drop down and stop. They drop down and crash or they land, right? It stops. Bob said, they're there. I said, I see them. He said, what do you want them to do? I could say, they could take off fast. What do I want them to do? So I got simple. I said, well, have them flash their light 3 times and then take off. He said, fine. I said, Bob, I need to learn more.
Yeah.
So I started going every time there was a meeting, I was there. And in one of the meetings, and then I won't bore you, but this is before Star Trek. So I said to them, could I come? I was learning to fly. I was flying light planes, nothing heavy, but the little Cessnas and stuff. I was getting flight training in my spare time because I could never be rich enough to own an airplane, but I could rent them, So I said to Bob, I'm kind of interested in knowing more about how this works. Is it possible they could show me the insides of one of their bell ships? Because they're like a bell form for the ones that come down here, the land here. The triangular ones, you don't go near them. If you ever see a triangular ship land, go the other way. They eat people. They see us as animals. They don't think we're high enough level to worry about.
I kind of agree with that.
So yeah, go away from the triangle. But when the rounded ships come that look like a bell, like a bell ship,
Are they the Greys?
they're good people. Huh?
Are they the Greys? The ones in the bell?
Oh yeah, well, there are 6 different colors of people. I've seen them. There might be more, but I've
I've
seen
seen like the people look like alligator,
the rough skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's usually a bluish green or something. It's not quite.
And I've been told that the Greys are kind of like the taxi drivers of the universe.
Could be.
Yeah.
I never knew that, but that's very possible. Yeah.
So you see them so often because they're around all over the place.
Sure. What kind of a fare do you give them? How do you pay them? Well, anyway, I was at Bob's one night, and they said, "Do you have any questions?" Because they sometimes would let us ask questions, and they would give us answers. And they always predicted the next shot that America or Russia was going to make, and what day it was going to be, and whether it would succeed or fail, and what part of it would fail. They did that each time. So they'd say, Canaveral's going to have a shot. It's going to be a 3-section piece. The second section will not ignite, and it will fall back into the earth and burn. It doesn't have any people in it. It's just equipment. They don't allow weapons in space. So anything with a weapon failed automatically. And our government was told that, and so was all the other governments. Anyway, so then we'd watch the newspaper, and sure enough, a shot was made. It failed in the second stage and fell back.
So is that connected at all with the White Brotherhood?
What's that?
The White Brotherhood?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That is kind of moving over the planet.
And Knights of the Golden Cross. And there's several different groups that are very much in the light.
Because I've heard that we won't, the Earth won't go away. You know, I mean, we're not going to be able to explode. That this is like some sort of a triangulation thing that has to be here, and they'll kill us before they'll let the planet.
They'll let us kill each other, but they will not let us kill the
Well, we're
planet.
doing such a good job of that.
What's that?
We're doing a great job of that.
Well, we're messing it up. Yeah, I asked, actually, I could talk about this all day. So
Yes, and we are running out of time.
How's our time? Okay. Okay.
Well, your time was up 10 minutes ago, but we're fine.
I've only got about 10 more hours.
I know, John, we're gonna have you come back.
I'll come
John,
back.
can you finish the UFO story?
Well, it's yes, it'll take a while, but let me go quickly. One night I asked them, could I come aboard a ship and learn how you fly your ships? They said, yes, you can. Really? How do I do that? They said, you go stand in the corner over there where there's nothing around you. Just stand there quietly and relax and don't get nervous. We'll take care of it. And this is beaming up that they do in the movies now. That was before beaming up even existed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm standing there waiting, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by moving milk. There's milk going around. My eyes are open, and I'm thinking I can't breathe, but I can. I'm not having, but I'm surrounded by this milky substance, and it lasts maybe a few seconds, and I'm standing on one of their ships. They came over and they said, you'd like to see how our ships fly? I said, yes. They walked me over to them. They're sitting there floating, and we get in, and I won't tell you how they fly them because I saved that for somebody who tells me they've been there. If you can't tell me how they fly them, you haven't been there. But I got in and they allowed me to try it, and I did. I moved them around, and I moved them this way and that way a little bit. That was good enough, and they brought me back. And I came back in the same way with the milk around me, but I wasn't wet, and I could still breathe. I can't explain it. But anyway, there's a lot more I could tell you. And anytime you want, I will.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, yay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Delightful talk.
Thank you.
And
My pleasure.
We have people here that would love to have you talk again.
My pleasure.
We've got all
Anytime.
kinds of people saying, thank you, John, for an incredible sermon. Johanna said, love your sermon. Thank you. Chin Lee and
That's next.
Glenn said, John, we look forward to your series of sermons.
What? Look forward to what?
Series of sermons.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
Well, it could happen. You could be here, once a month.
I'll be glad to do whatever you want me to do.
And Chin Lee, she's responding. She goes, yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what she was talking
I'll be
about.
glad to come and tell you what I know. And if I don't know, I'll say, I don't know.
And when's your book coming out?
Well, I'm not the fastest, speed demon on the track. So I've got about, what have I got? About 20, 25 articles to put in the book, some of which will be very boring and some of which will be very kind of interesting, I hope. So I've got maybe more to do, but,
I'm sure there's somebody who'd go and just sit and listen to you and with a tape recorder and
Then
transcribe it.
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
So then it doesn't matter how fast you type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. so
Anyway,
very
God bless
much.
you. Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank
I
you.
ask your life be blessed and you take the light wherever you go.
Oh,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
I better sit down.
Okay, we're gonna pass the basket and just if you don't have any cash on you or you don't feel like it or whatever, just bless the basket.
Thank you.
Because it's your blessings that work for us so very much.
We can't throw a
Thank you so
credit
much.
card in?
No, credit card, no, we're just fine. Thank you so much. You just bless it. And thank you. And Annie, how fast a speed
could she-
walker are you?
How
over
fast
here?
a speed walker I wanted to send John?
I'm in. Oh,
Six minutes.
Yeah, thank you.
So Annie's going to come back and do the prayer.
Yeah, Annie. You know,
Annie's
here we
coming
have an
back to do it.
associate pastor who not only wears 2 hats, she
Hi,
wears
Rose.
many more.
Even
Hi,
better.
Rose, thank you.
Even better.
Yeah, thank
Bye-bye,
you,
thank
Rose.
you.
It was great having you.
I'll see you
here.
later.
You better.
Or she'll see me.
Yeah. She didn't want to leave you
I'm
in a
sorry, I
room
didn't
full of
bring you the
women
basket.
and
Right here, John.
not know for
Thank
sure
you.
you were
Thank
going
you,
to be
sir.
coming home. huh?
Well, you
Yeah.
come and speak and, leave a donation. That's,
Well,
that's our
yeah.
kind of visitor.
That's the least I can do, and I always do the least.
Oh my goodness, I could sit and listen to you all day long,
Yeah.
all week long.
Thank you.
Thank you for the amazing stories and for reaffirming. Because there's times right now that the appearances are that darkness is taking over. And I've been calling it the dark before the dawn.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes I need to be reminded of that, and
That's
you
right.
reminded us.
We all-
So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend John. Really appreciate it very, very much. So, gosh, I don't even know where I'm coming from today, but we'll see. It always comes through.
Honey, you're right here.
Am I right here? You always tell me that. I'm right here, and for some reason, just doesn't feel like it. But, I am right here. So let's just take a moment and close our eyes and take a nice deep breath in through your nose. Breathe in all that wonderful information and loving light that Reverend John had shared with us, and all of your loving angels around you. And then let's breathe out anything that appears to be different than that. Let it go with this nice sigh. And you can set all of your troubles aside into a virtual invisible basket that our Creator has set beside you, because the Creator loves to take these types of things and transmute it into something beautiful, like a flower that can go through the wall. And, and anything that is feeding our earth, feeding our energies. One more breath in. And out. Dearest Mother, Father, God, dearest Creator, we thank you for this day. We thank you for our lives. And we thank you for this time of being together, whether it be virtually or in person. We thank you for the amazing messages that we got today. And because we know that through you, speak through each and every one of us, that your truth is our truth, our oneness, our greatness together. Let's be renewed in our faith and be renewed in our light, and know, thank you, Creator, for helping us to feel that and to know that we are together, even when we are not physically together. We just have to reach out our spirit and our love. We're touching you, and you're touching everybody else, so we're all one. We give thanks for this wonderful day and this beautiful weather, and that we hope cools down a little bit. And we thank you for an amazing message that we got today, reaffirming all the truths that we knew deep down in our hearts. Thank you for these continuous reminders, Creator, because without those continuous reminders, we could end up sometimes feeling a little bit less than faithful. And we're holding on to that faith. Today, it was renewed. We are so happy about this. And as we go out each and every day, and especially in moments like this, be kind. Thank you for giving us kindness. Thank you for the opportunity to smile at somebody. Let us show our smile behind our eyes. Let us show who we are truly in our hearts and in our souls. We thank you again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Blessed be. So it is. And amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Donnie, could you tell them your story about when they came to your house in Santa Clara?
We can tell the story about,
Oh, yeah, we should.
You don't mind staying just another
No, I don't
minute
mind.
or so?
Love to.
I mean, because maybe it was the same people.
Well, I'm sure we've had some of the same people visit. I was living in Santa Clara, and I was attending a group at we and our neighbors, and metaphysical group, and we'd had a whole evening doing aura readings and talking to people, and it was really high energy. And I'd taken a friend of mine who had never seen anything like this. And so people were talking about being visited by UFOs. And so we get back to my house and she said, I want to see one. I don't believe in them. And I just want to see one of them. And she was just so insistent. I said, okay. And I put out my energy and I said, we would like to have a visitation, please. This woman is very skeptical. And all of a sudden I heard this sound that I hadn't heard before. It was kind of a metallic engine, but not quite, and kind of a whine. And the window in the front room, where there wasn't a window there, but the wall just parted. And two beings stepped in. One was about 7 feet tall and the other was about 5 feet tall. And they were dressed in metal. And the only way you knew there was anything that wasn't just a robot was there was a piece of chrome where the face is. But when you looked into it, you could see swirling planets in there or swirling something. And she looked and went, oh, tell him to go away. We just asked him to visit, you know.
And they were gliding.
Yeah. And, well, yeah, they didn't have feet. They just were gliding. And the body was like a cape, only in metal. And so they're just gliding there. And she says, I can't take it. I can't take him. Tell him to go away. And it's one of those things when they talk, you don't know whether they're talking or you're just hearing it. Yeah. And they said, okay, we're from the Creator. And I knew it wasn't God they were talking about. It's a creator of something more in their planetary system. And they said, and we will see you later. And they left. And I went over, as she's going, I went over and put my hand on the wall. And it was very warm. And I was so impressed by that. I put a window there.
Good, perfect.
Yeah, we redid our house because I said, we need a window there so they don't have to go through the wall. You know? So thank you, Corky, for it was just one of those very unique things. This has been a lovely day.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us here at UCM headquarters. We really do appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Next week, we'll be back at the Billy DeFrank. And thank you for joining us. Now, one thing that you have to do today. Are you ready for a have to do?
What?
Take one of those lovely cupcakes that Rebecca made.
Or two.
Or two. And
You're reading my mind.
and tell us what's in them, Rebecca.
Those are lemon chocolate and vanilla.
Whoa.
Oh.
Whoa. Are they each cupcake is that, or there more than one? There are
Flavors?
three flavors
Yes.
of cupcakes.
Wow.
Okay. Yes. So please take vegan.
Mhm.
So please take a couple of cupcakes. Okay. Thank you so very much for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan, for joining us.
Oh, sorry.
No, and Annie, I have the necklace you brought for Susan to give to her.
Oh, perfect. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And are you going to be around a little bit if
I
somebody
can.
has questions
I
to
can go
ask
around
you?
front.
Okay.